HHG here. So, I need to make some lugs for a custom kit that I'm working on. What I have here is the lug barrels. It's going to be a single point type lug that just, if this is the outside of the shell, just attaches to the shell in one location, and then this barrel runs up and down on the shell and receives the tension rod. And the kit that I'm making, it's a really cool design specified by the customer. All of these are going to be a custom length, dictated by the depths of the drum. So every drum will have basically an 1.5 inch reveal from the end of the lug barrel to the bearing edge of the shell. I've been working on these lugs for 2 weeks, and it's fucking awful. And I thought maybe we could practice some wood shop or metal shop voyeurism today, and we can just hang out. Please jump in the chat. I think I can see you guys here in the comments section. I think we're live right now on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I'm just going to make some of these lugs, drill some holes in them, and maybe we can chat about drums. It's a pretty not fun process. I don't enjoy it. I wish I had a really awesome metal lathe, but until I get to my new shop, that won't really be an option for me. Can barely hear you. My phone volume is cranked. 1 second, Randy. Let me fix that. Settings. Let's go to settings. Let's crank that audio up a little bit. Audio. How about this? Is this better? Probably not. Huh. Let me see. Show advanced options. Auto gain. Maybe some of these things. How about this? Any better? No, still seems like shit. How about that? Better? That might do it. Maybe I'll just be a little bit louder. No? No bueno? Alright, well, fuck it. Oh, is it better? Still sucks? Still sucks? Better? I appreciate the AV assistance, Randy. That's that's fucking helpful, man. Oh, cool. Alright, better? Awesome. I could also just do a little bit better job of being loud. Yes, sexy metal shop goodness. So I've got the lug in the chuck. Got my drill bit. Fun fact, tension rods for drums are a very strange size. It's a number 1224 machine thread that was apparently prevalent back in the day, but barely exists anywhere else in the world today. Where the fuck is my oil? Give me 1 second. I gotta go find some oil because this thing needs some oil. What the fuck is that? Mucha buena. Yeah, so I've been working on these for about 2 fucking weeks. And you'll see quite shortly as to why it's so fucking awful. Just slowly cranking. It's just slowly cranking. You gotta add a little bit of oil to the drill bit. Yeah, the speed of the lathe is at 911 RPM. So, not particular, you know, I can't really qualify that as slow or fast, but it's the right speed. I fucked around for a little bit and tried to find some different speeds. If I go too fast, it becomes a problem. If I go too slow, it becomes a problem. This seems to be about the sweet spot. Yeah, J. Aldwin, 1224. It's awful. And the reason I brought that up is because if you're cutting 1224, because here's the thing. This is just step one. Like, I have to drill this hole. Then after I drill the hole, I have to also thread the hole. And what size hole you drill when you're cutting threads is extremely important. Now, you can get really close to this with like a standard SAE size bit. I forget what size it is. I think like 9/32 or something. But if you want to be a real machinist, you buy they call them wire size drill bits. And they're just drill bits that have a wire gauge number associated to the size of the drill bit. This drill bit is a number 16. So there's the thing that you learned today that you didn't really want to know. Yes, exactly. It has to be undersized. And you can look this up. It's common information. There's charts that exist that'll tell you if you want to use this size tap, you need to use this size drill bit. And usually you can get close with just, like any standard set of drill bits. But knowing that I had to do 28 lugs, both sides, 56 holes, thread them all, I was like, buy the right drill bits. So I bought like a 10-pack of these number 16 drill bits. And that's another thing. Don't buy cheap drill bits. I did not. I bought the best fucking cobalt drill bits that they make. If you get just a mild steel drill bit, you're gonna get some less than average results. So if you get a nice like cobalt boron or boron nitride type drill bit, you're gonna do a lot better. And these have been working out pretty good. I haven't been keeping track of the time here. We're at 7 minutes on the stream, but I'd say it's probably about 3 minutes or so per lug. Or 3 minutes per side per lug. So let's call that 6 minutes per lug. I'll call it 8 minutes once you factor in, unchucking, rechucking, chamfering, filing. So what's 8 times 56? 448 minutes. When I say we build custom drums, I really mean it. I will spend 448 minutes customizing the lugs for your kit. Oh, God. So this is hopefully, I think this is probably my 5th peck into here. I got to do probably one more. That's another difficult thing about this is when you're tapping a hole, there's tapping a through hole and there's tapping a blind hole. And this is tapping a blind hole. And what that means is you're cutting threads into a hole that has a stopped bottom. If you're tapping a through hole, it's really easy. Like, I'm not going to do any tapping on this video, but the next part of the process is really not so bad. Yeah, 7.46 hours. Thank you for doing the math. It is insane, Randy. I couldn't agree with you more. All right, last peck. What I was saying was, so if you're tapping a through hole, that means you're just tapping a hole in a sheet of metal or something, or like a chunk of metal. And you can see right through the hole, and as you cut the threads, all of the metal chips that are created as you're tapping fall out the bottom. In this case, the chunks of metal from tapping get stuck in the bottom, so you have to drill deeper than you want to tap. Like, I need 1.5 inches of threads in this. I'm drilling 2 inches deep so that I have room for those chunks of metal to coagulate at the bottom without interfering with the tap. So now I've slid the tailstock out of the way. The drill bit's stationary. The workpiece is spinning. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of a chamfer on the edge here with a file. This is pretty clutch because these, you can see that these lugs, I have them wrapped in blue tape. That's because they already are plated in bronze. So I'm trying not to mess up the bronze plating. And that's part of this chamfer here is if you have a hard edge there where you cut the lug off, that hard edge is a spot where the plating is probably going to fail. But if you chamfer it a little bit, it shouldn't shouldn't be a problem. And then the last step here, just a quick, the camera. There's the camera. Just a quick chamfer on the hole. That'll just make sure the tension rod finds its home pretty easily. And then the last step, just a little bit of blowing out. I like to turn it on to do this. Okay, all done. So, that's one side of this lug. If you guys are real masochists, maybe you'll stick around. I'm down to my last, I got 5 more to go, so that's 10. What you just watched me do, I have to do 9 more times. And so here's what I end up with. Nice tasty hole. We started with just a little bit of an impression on this side. There was a little bit of the hole left over from before, which is nice, because it gives me a good starting point. So now I was drilling it like this. Got to flip it over, put it back in. I had to buy these chuck jaws specifically for this job, but they're actually perfect for it. Like I said, I'm doing this on a wood lathe, which is less than ideal. But at the end of the day, if you're doing this type of operation, there's not a lot of difference between a metal lathe and a wood lathe. Because if you were going to do this on a metal lathe, you'd be doing the exact same thing. You'd be using the tailstock to advance a drill bit into the spinning material. And there's really no difference in that type of operation. The big difference when you look at wood lathe versus metal lathe comes into play is like when you start actually cutting material. And on a wood lathe, you just do it by hand, holding a chisel. On a metal lathe, there's a cross slide that grips your tool, because the amount of force that goes onto that tool is insane, and you couldn't do it by hand. So put a little bit of oil on there, and here we go again. If I'm really careful when I start out, I can get some really nice material removal. It works, I don't know. It's nice at the beginning, and a big pipe wrench. Yeah, Bales, what's up. Bales, dude, I just meant to tell you, I keep meaning to comment on your videos. I fucking love your YouTube videos of you at the Calderwood shop. It's super fun, man. It's like, I love those videos because they're just unedited. Not that they're unedited, but it's just raw footage of what it looks like. It gives, like, I see so much of what we do here in those videos. Like, everybody assumes that, like, oh, you have a drum company or whatever, and it's fucking glorious and cool and fun and sexy. It's none of those things. It's just this. It's just this shit. It's sanding and cleaning shit up and inventory. And I saw, like, Bill was just making, he's making that awesome guitar. Like, it's making volume control knobs on a metal lathe for a fucking guitar. It's not super glorious. So, keep those coming, man. I dig the shit out of those videos. If none of you on here, if you're not subscribed to Bales on YouTube, go do that. He's one of the OG, like, drum YouTube guys. I remember watching his videos way back in the day. The 2x4 snare drum and one of everybody's personal favorites, the sonotube. If you haven't seen that video, you need to go see it. My dude took a literal sonotube, like the cardboard tubes that you use to pour concrete in to make like a footing for your deck or something. He made a snare drum out of one of those, and it sounded real fucking good. Oh, and the zipper snare. Yeah, don't be on the fence, man. Keep them going. They're fantastic videos, man. And one of the things I like about YouTube more than other platforms is kind of it's kind of like a well-organized bunch of home movies if you use it that way. Like, I don't have any illusions that I'll ever be YouTube famous like Bales is, but like what I like about those videos is and I put a lot of videos out, like, not a lot, but I put some videos out where I'm not trying to get views. I don't give a fuck really if anybody watches them, but one of my favorite things about them is I know that, like, several years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, I can go back and watch these videos and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. And if you go to all the trouble like Bales does of actually editing the videos and putting narration to them and making them interesting, I can just imagine how fucking cool those will be, 20 years from now. So keep them coming, man. I enjoy the shit out of them. I watch every single fucking one. They're all great. Oh, jeez. Boring lugs. I often, maybe there's an etymologist in here somewhere. You could tell me. But you know how we call things boring when they suck? Yeah, you never knew who was Slayer. Exactly, Jay Aldwin. I couldn't agree more. I get a lot of that too. I'll get people emailing me about videos that I made years ago, just on a whim, just like a shitty cell phone video of like I think maybe one of my first YouTube videos is my old what do they call them? Cocoa jig. A cocoa jig is like that was kind of my entrance into the world of building stave drums. Is there was these dudes back in like the mid 2000s that well, the OG guy was this guy named Coco, and I'm not really sure. I think it was just like his screen name on like some forum or something. But he invented a really awesome jig. I don't know if he invented it, but he popularized a really awesome, basically a jig that you could use to make a stave drum shell round on the inside and outside pretty easily using nothing but a router. And it's become popularized and modified, and it's kind of like it's what everybody uses. I mean, it's not what I use anymore, but it allowed a lot of people to enter that world. But shit like that, like I remember watching those like videos. Oh, there was some guy, some Japanese guy. I forget his name. It might have been Coco. Anyways, like these old videos, I'll still get questions and emails. Come and meet me, Sam, and see his amazing offerings. Oh yeah, everybody. My guy Joe Meckler's here. Joe, it's good to hear from you, man. Also known as Joey Boom, the fantastic organizer and proprietor of the Delaware Drum Show. I should probably talk about that a little bit more often, shouldn't I, Joe? Anyways, yeah. So on the 27th of February, me and Kevin will be at the Nershrine Hall somewhere in Delaware or something. I forget where it's at. You can look it up. But it's the Delaware Drum Show, Sunday the 27th of February. It's the only drum show that I go to. Because it's funny how that came about. Like the year I think it was, what was that, 2019 that the pandemic started or something? 2020 or something. No, 2019. So we went to the 2019 show, I think. And maybe it was 2020. I forget. We went to the show pre-pandemic, and it was fucking awesome. Like all the horror stories I hear about NAMM and how just awful NAMM is, the Delaware Drum Show is kind of like the antithesis of that. It's small, intimate, it's fun as hell. Like I had a really good time. But that year, or no, that was, what the fuck happened? Was it? I forget how it went down. 2019. Yeah, okay. So it was 2019 we went, and then the pandemic started happening, and the funny thing was, like, that year, we had planned on, like, my plan was to go to all of them. Like, we were going to go to fucking Chicago Drum Show, Music City Drum Show in Nashville, and then we were on the fence, but we were thinking about maybe going to, like, the real Winter NAMM show out in Anaheim. And then, of course, the new normal jumped in. The whole world fell apart, and we decided to not go to any of those fucking things. Oh yeah, Fraser Murray. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I Fraser Murray's fucking fantastic. He is. Thanks for bringing him up, Jay. I appreciate that. That guy is the shit. His drums are a fucking inspiration, and I still remember watching some of his videos back in the day and just being fucking flabbergasted. Like the simplicity of some of the things he came up with to build his drums, but also like how well they work were just fantastic. One of my favorite things, like the way he makes his segments. There's a video of the way he makes, because he does mostly segmented drums, and he has this bandsaw jig that is, it's fucking pure genius. It basically it allows him to cut curved segments for the segmented drum in a way that there's little to no waste. It's it's fucking genius. So like usually when you make segmented drums, you're making a bunch of sides and they're a bunch of segments with flat sides, and that means you got to have a lot of extra material because those flat sides get milled off. He starts with curved segments so that when the shell is completed, there's only maybe an eighth of an inch on either side of extra material that gets removed because the shell is ostensibly already round, which I think is fucking genius. Okay, well, pipe wrench. This is maybe the one part that like a metal lathe would do better. Would be the chuck, because this is a wood lathe, wood chuck. The pressures are different, and you usually don't need that much gripping power when you're cutting wood, but you need a lot of gripping power when you're cutting metal. But I was blathering on about drum shows, and yeah, in 2019 we were planning on going to fucking all of them. Then the virus showed up, and we quickly decided that it just made no sense to do that, and they ended up canceling most of the shows anyways. And then since then, it's just been like I know Nam has returned. The Charles. You call the Chuck the Charles. I like that. That's funny. Oh fuck. Yeah, we were gonna go to all the shows, and then pandemic happened, and we decided to scrap them all, and we have scrapped them all since 2019. We just it just hasn't really seemed like there's been a good moment. And in all fairness, uh, Omicron's hitting pretty fucking hard right now. Can potential customers from the area come check out your stuff? Yeah, absolutely, man. We don't have like a there's no showroom here. We're not like we don't we don't really have like a like storefront or anything. We will at some point when we move to our new location, but for the foreseeable future, it's kind of a by appointment only. Russell, thank you for the question. Uh, yeah, I just had somebody here last weekend from about 45 minutes away. They drove in. They're gonna order a drum set. And they just wanted to come by and check out some of the options. Yeah, usually the way we do that with like people visiting and stuff, potential customers coming to the shop, is we just ask you to shoot us a DM, shoot us a email, whatever. Just get in touch, and we can set up a date and time. You can swing by. It's always very fun because I'm a real drum nerd at heart. I love talking about drums, and when a customer comes, it's really fun because we get to talk about drums for a long time, and I get to nerd the fuck out a little bit. I have become cognizant though of the fact that when customers come, like I can be like fucking overwhelming because I'm around. Yep, you. I haven't seen you in a while. Because I build drums, like I do this, and so I'm aware of lots of different options and things you can do and all this shit. And oftentimes customers will come in and they're like looking for a kit, and I'm like, here's a million things to consider. So I've been trying to temper myself a little bit. Yeah, 90% accuracy on this is about all we need. spelling, and fucking drilling lugs. I'm sure that the concentricity of using a wood lathe to drill lugs is marginally not as good as if I was using a wood lathe or a metal lathe, but you know, I'm sure it's close enough. A good friend of mine, Darren, he always says done is better than perfect sometimes. I couldn't agree with him more. Because I can be, ask anybody can ask Kevin specifically, I can be overwhelmingly pedantic and specific and picky about how perfect things are. But I need to remind myself that if I spent all of my time making sure every single thing I ever did was absolutely 1000% perfect, I would never actually make anything. Oh. So, I think when I get done with this lug, I might wrap up the stream here. Because I had some Mexican food last night that is not agreeing with me at the moment. I might need to go do something about that. But yeah, the Delaware Drum Show. If you guys are anywhere near Pennsylvania, you know, the tri-state area, Jersey, New York, whatever, the Delaware Drum Show is really fantastic. Thanks a lot. People stop themselves before they even begin. Yes, people do that. It's easy to, it's, the best thing you can do is just always, if you don't quit, that's the most important thing. I mean, it's important to strive for a level of the highest level of perfection I think that you can possibly muster. And it, you know, given what I do here and given what Kevin does here, that's what's expected. Like, people expect the most perfect goddamn drums that money can buy. And that can be a lot of pressure. But also, sometimes, like earlier today, I was sanding some Babinga hoops. There's an Instagram, Facebook story up you can take a look at. And as I'm sanding these hoops, I'm thinking to myself, you really don't need to put a second coat of lacquer on these. Like, they looked fucking fantastic. But I couldn't stop myself from sanding them as smooth as glass and then fucking painting them again. But in my mind, like, I guess the line really is, I'm gonna force myself to not do a third coat. Because 2 will be enough. And we've been on here for 28 minutes, and I've got, what, 1.5 lugs done? Not very fun. Not very fun. Kevin will tell you guys, I have grand plans eventually when we get to the new shop. I'd really like to be making my lugs from scratch, like, completely. And to do that, obviously, it makes no economic sense to try and do that like this. Like, that's all I would ever do is to spend my time making lugs. But I desperately, at some point, would like to purchase a really nice dual spindle live tooling CNC metal lathe so that I could fill up the bar feeder with just 1-inch aluminum or brass round bar, and then that machine would just sit there and run continuously for 55 hours, spitting beautiful brand new lugs into a bin. Someday, I think I'll get there. And I mean, same thing goes for all the fucking hardware. There's really no reason, given the proliferation of technology, that you can't figure out a way to make all of your fucking hardware. Like, I've been making my own metal hoops now for a couple of years. That's really fun. It's super challenging. But I can't really do it on a large scale yet, just because some of the equipment I need to do that on a larger scale, I just can't fit into this building. So for the time being, I'm kind of relegated to just, I'll make a couple of hoops every once in a while. And that's cool. And they're less, they're not exactly the way I want them to be just because I don't quite have the tooling to make them the way I want to make them or to be able to make them at scale. But I spend a lot of time daydreaming about how I can eventually get to making those at scale. Because there's a lot of components that go into building a drum. Lugs and air vents and strainers and heads and hoops and wires and machine screws and tension rods and all this shit. And with, just a small preponderance of the correct machinery, you could probably make a lot of those things. What's that, Jay? When I was in school, they had a nice Haas lathe. Yes. That's probably, in all honesty, I'm very attracted to Haas machines in general. Because they're nice. They walk that line between, like, hobby and professional. Like, a lot of real machinists, muffler bearings. Yeah, there's a lot of shit. But Haas is nice. They walk that line between, like, hobby and professional. Like, I know a lot of machine shops, if you're not running, like, Moriseki or, Okuma or something like that, they're going to laugh at you if you're running a bunch of Haas lathes. But I think Haas has gotten a lot better over the years, and the nice thing is they're relatively affordable. Like, when I say affordable, $100,000 for a lathe new, but compared to, like, $500,000 for, like, an Okuma or something, I think that's possible. Well, everybody, thank you for stopping by while I made some lugs. I have a lot more of these to go, but I have got to get going. So I'll catch you guys later.